Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.
That's how they do it. First, 4 minutes, that was just ridiculous. So, hi, Tyler. We're just took a Jager bomb. So, Tyler just said to me, I don't know how you function without me. True. And then so the other day, Tyler and my business partner were doing some manual labor for my business, and I was at another thing, but then I came after the thing, and your productivity went down to zero.
Literally.
After I just came, and I wasn't even really doing anything. I was just kind of standing there, but you immediately started fucking around as soon as I got there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it was was it you or Zach that pointed it out and was just as soon as you fucking get together, it's Dumb and Dumber, basically.
I go from a productive and focused person to just fucking around and throwing hammers.
Yeah. So that's my counter to you saying, I don't know how you function without me.
I don't know how I function with you is the problem. I
guess.
function fine without you. You can't. I guess we function probably better not together.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, except for drinking and talking shit, obviously.
Yeah.
That's our
But then I guess
sport.
if we're trying to be productive, then we end up just drinking and talking shit.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's
so
the most
speaking of
productive thing we
which,
can do.
welcome to the Drinking and Talking Shit podcast.
Woo!
Alcohol Beyond This Point, the podcast where we debate business topics, both sober and drunk, to see if we come to the same conclusions. This week's episode brought to you by Tyler almost spilling a Jager bomb all over the table just now. So today I texted you earlier because I wanted to talk about this this thing this is a business topic. So I won't get
ethics question.
No. I don't want to talk about child euthanasia. There's literally I'm gonna say something controversial that it's good. You're gonna say that you don't really agree with Elon Musk's take, and then that's the end of the conversation.
No. I mean, your topic is about ethics.
Is it? Okay. Well, okay. I'll just tell the story and then we'll get into it.
But I like that you just know where the conversation's going, anyways.
So today, I won't get too into it detail wise because he's kind of my friend, the other person on the other end of this, and I don't want to get into his shit. But there's a business or a product more so that I wanted to potentially do in the future. And I told you, this isn't me just being oh, I thought of that first.
Yeah.
I had told you this a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And my friend who has a company in the same industry of this idea just released the product that I had the idea to do.
Right.
And it's kind of, but not really in his wheelhouse. He makes that kind of product, but not this kind of product. He specializes in something else, but then he thought this was going to be, whatever.
But it's closer to his wheelhouse than yours.
That's also fair.
Yeah.
But also, who the fuck knows what I'm doing half the time?
Not you.
Yeah. So, so he came up with this thing, and then I had the idea, or not the idea, but I'm kind of I still want to kind of do it.
Yeah.
And compete with him.
Yeah.
So,
although, okay. Anyways, I'll let you finish. Before I add my thoughts.
I guess what do you think mainly about situations like that? This happens all the time in the liquor industry that I'm also in. Is we release different breweries release similar products.
Right.
Right. And you're not exactly trying to compete with each. I remember when I released my vodka sodas, I teased them just so you couldn't read what it said, but I just posted a picture of the can.
Yeah.
And that was my first canned product. And then the marketing or I don't know what he does. He's a GM for another one of the breweries. DMs me and he's hey man, is that product that you just teased a vodka soda?
Yeah.
Or he said seltzer, but I'm seltzer? I'm yeah. He's okay, I'm releasing a seltzer next week. I don't want you to think this was we've been planning this for 6 months. I swear. This is just a complete coincidence. We're not trying to rip you off.
Right. Which is unsurprising because everyone was making seltzers at the time.
Yeah, it was the fad, 2-3 years ago. It was kind of the fad thing.
Thanks, White Claw.
Literally. So, we, but I wasn't personally offended by that. I wasn't fuck, they're releasing a product that's competing with mine, right? But what do you think of I guess like it's all business, right? But like in this situation, you know the guy I'm talking about. I can't really tell the audience, but like, you know the guy I'm talking about. You know our relationship. Like we're not super tight friends, but like I would consider us friends.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't help him move, but like
You know.
you know we're friendly. And so what does it look like if I just like come out with a competing business, basically?
Well, I think there's a lot to be said in how you do it, because I think one key thing that you mentioned was your friend doesn't want to like wholesale his product.
That was going to be my next
Yeah.
point of debate. So we'll talk about that over.
I would stay out of his like immediate territory of sales.
Which is like the farmers markets, though, which is
Right.
like what I know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's if you're gonna do a market, try not to do the same one as him, kind of thing, because he's not at every market.
No,
right?
no, of course not.
So I wouldn't do the same markets as him, like just as like a token of respect, because it kind of looks shitty for both of you. If someone walks in is like, oh wow, look at this product, and then like walks a couple booths over and sees it again, it kind of makes the market look stupid.
Except that always fucking happens, where there's like 19 people selling fucking shitty jewelry,
and it still sucks. Like like for example, I went to the big market, whatever, the big makers market that's here in Winnipeg, called Third and Bird, and I felt like I was having deja vu, because I went past I think 3 or 4 like leather crafter shops, whatever, where they had like belts and bags and whatever. There's like 3 or 4 of them, all looked pretty much the same, and then had like basically the same products. And then the funniest one was there is these concrete they're like making like concrete like plant stands. They look like a little 3-legged stool, and then they had those trays, and then
I'm more on board with it now, because
couple plates and
the
stuff.
first 2 days of the festival I thought they were chairs.
Right.
I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
it's a dumb chair.
Now when you're like, dude, they're not chairs, they're plants holders, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to put a plant on like a wooden stool. You want, because it'll ruin the fucking top, right?
Yeah.
So you put it on something. It's either going to put it on something metal or something like concrete or stone.
Yeah,
right?
I thought it was a chair.
And so did I. I
I'm
totally.
like, this is dumb.
But luckily, I asked questions before I opened my mouth, and they're like, "Oh, it's a plant stand." I'm like, "Oh, of course, a plant stand." I was gonna say stool.
Did they have pictures that had plants on them?
No,
Why not?
terrible marketing.
Terrible.
Yeah, no,
Because I didn't like. To be fair, I was.
But apparently, they sold out.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them.
I was working the event, so I didn't have time to walk around. The only time I had to walk around was like before and after.
Yeah.
So like I didn't see the booths fully set up. So I know like during an event it could be different. But I would like I know this guy that sells they're not really birdhouses, but they're like a weird some sort of feeder thing.
Yeah.
And like looking at them, you don't really know what they are.
Right.
But he has this big banners in the back that have like
marketing the use of
that
the
looks,
use of the product.
You see the bird fucking flying in it.
Yeah.
And then he also has a TV in the middle of his table, playing videos of it working on loop.
It's a trade show trope because it fucking works.
So maybe you know. I don't know these concrete planter people.
They should have had at worst a bunch of them with plants on them. You don't need pictures and diagrams. No. You got the thing. Get some fake plants or real plants.
They didn't even have any plants like at the show.
I didn't see.
Okay.
Maybe there was, but I didn't see any. Like it had to be explained to me.
So that like we won't roast them anymore. But I don't
want to roast them. I just thought it was funny because there was 2 that were virtually identical, and not only were they had virtually identical products, like they looked like they were the same product. Like I thought it was the same company in two spaces at once. Like it was not like unironically, and I had business cards from both, and they were you
they're
get
both
those like square business cards, and they were both black cards with white text, like plain white text logos on like black square card, and it was like, what the fuck is going on? And they just had different names. But one of them was definitely, because I definitely have a more critical eye. One of them was definitely a better product, and they had you could tell they were a little bit more professional in how they made their shit. One was definitely made like literally just like they bought like Home Depot buckets, filled them with concrete, and then like knocked it out because it had like the little divot in the middle from like the inside of a bucket.
Yeah.
And the other ones were like polished and smooth and look a lot cleaner. So it's like one obviously put in a bit more effort than the other one. But yeah, I was interested in talking to them because I'm like, I've got some like concrete potentially concrete-based products that we're working on soon. And like, I don't want to get into making concrete shit. I'd rather just like go to somebody that makes it.
Sure.
So I'm like, I was doing a bit of networking, getting contact information. I'm like, oh, look, a concrete guy. Grab his card, talk to him, do the whole pitch. Walk a couple booths. I'm like, oh, look, a concrete guy. Give the pitch, get the card. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, it was pretty weird. But yeah, it's not a great look, and you have to. Then you're in direct contention, and it's not. You're not going to be friends with that guy anymore after that, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I guess like, would you ask his, not permission, but like, would you tell him what you're doing before I start?
I wouldn't ask permission, but I would tell him, and I would maybe as a concession of like, hey, I've been sitting on this idea for like more than a year before you released it. So I don't want you to feel like this is something, I'm doing in your face. And just as like a personal favor to you, I won't sell in any venues that you're planning to sell in, because I don't want to take away from your sales, and I don't need to, because he may also look at it like you already have a successful business and you're additionally chewing into his industry, which then just looks like shit.
I often feel bad because, like, how do I say this without being a dick? I do my business full time.
Yeah.
More than full time. Like, I make pretty good money. Yeah. Maybe not personally, I reinvest all of it, but like, I'm doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. And I do it full time. And then I go to markets with these people. I didn't mean to say like these people, but like I go to markets with people that are great, but they they try so hard and they can't get their business full time.
Right.
Right. And so, and sometimes it's like, they're like, oh, I did like this amount of sales at the market. I'm like, is that good for you?
Yeah. And
they're like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, no, I didn't mean it like that. I just have like no context.
Yeah.
Whether, are you complaining to me right now or are you happy? Like, yeah. I honestly have no idea.
I sell liquor over here. The government takes my money. It's like, I don't know what's good or not.
Yeah. It's hard to.
I don't know what your margins are. I don't know what your targets are. I don't know what your last week's numbers were. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and just from those conversations that I've had with people, it seems like I'm in the upper, probably 15% of people that sell at markets.
Yeah, and you've got a professional product and a semi-professional booth.
Hey, it's gotten a lot better.
It has. It used to be plastic table, bottle, cash box.
Yeah, literally.
Sometimes still is.
Sometimes still is if I'm super hungover. Or it's raining outside, I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Anyway, but...
don't even put the bottle out. Just be like, just got your sweater on, just sit in the chair. There's a cooler behind you. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, just say what you want. I'll throw it out.
What'll it be?
But, yeah, so, I don't know. I find it like, I guess, like, at the end of the day, business is business is business is business, right? You can't, like, if I have an idea that I'm passionate about, it's not like no one's reinventing the wheel, right?
And no one's also doing you any favors by staying out of your neighborhood.
That's a good point as well. Yeah. I mean, like, because if someone was passionate about wine and they wanted to start making wine, it's not my business to be like, well, you can't come to the same fucking events that I do then.
Right. Absolutely not.
Right. So, like, I would, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm kind of like split because, like you were saying, like, this business is my friend's full-time income.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how he pays his mortgage and his other shit.
And this is also one product out of
a lot,
many that he has.
But, like, maybe if and it also is kind of funny because I know for a fact someone took one of his product ideas and ran with it one time, and he was like pissed about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was pissed, but he told me, he's like, I'm not even pissed. I'm just like, come on. Like, because he made
the original.
Yeah. He made this product, and then a competitor, and they're friendly enough. Like, they talk like this was definitely a ripoff. He was planning on doing, and then like it was during COVID and he couldn't get his hands on one of the ingredients or something. Mm-hmm. So he like temporarily discontinued it, or not even discontinued, just like couldn't make a batch. And then this other guy made a batch of that product, exact same one.
Yeah.
And then he was basically, well, if he's not going to fucking do it, I'll do it.
Right.
And it was like, well, was this because supply chain issue? You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah. I mean, but also did that directly take from his sales?
Who knows?
Also, that's kind of like a first come, first serve, I guess.
Well, that's competition 101, right? Like, it's just...
Especially because this is a small scale competition, and they can there's probably enough room at the table for them both to eat, and they're probably not directly selling against each other.
Not often, yeah.
So it kind of sucks when someone takes your idea or copies you.
But also,
but just be better, right?
Think about like that's the cornerstone of capitalism, right? Is just make a better idea.
Like there's a guy in our city that's using my pictures to get jobs. Like we were on the same job site. He took a bunch of pictures of my work and he uses it to advertise his services on classified sites. And I think it's funny.
Yeah, okay.
Because I've seen his work and I know he's not capable. So it's like he could take pictures off of Pinterest. He could take
I was gonna
pictures
say that's
off of
essentially
anywhere.
like someone fucking using a Google image, like stock image for something.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah,
and
okay.
we've had like some whatever previous employees take pictures of work that they didn't do, but projects they were on. So it's like kind of okay. Like yeah, you were there, but like you didn't do it.
That's tough.
And you couldn't pull it off on your own.
That's tough. Like I think a good example is film reels, right?
Right.
Where you for those of you not in the know, if you're a aspiring actor, director, director of photography, whatever, you have what's called a film reel, or just a reel, which is like examples of your work.
Yeah.
So, and it's like a resume.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to get a job, acting or whatever, you send them a little 10-minute reel or shorter of just like things you've been in.
Right.
Right. So people can see the clip, or if you're like a lighting guy, they can see the light, right?
Right.
But like a film, fucking 900 people working on
There's so many contributors,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, maybe you were acting like shit, but the editing really saved it. Right. So it's like, but now you're sending that reel out as if that so that's just where my mind immediately went. It's like, well, if it's a collaborative event like fucking construction, it's like, who's to say he didn't, this isn't his work, right?
I mean, it's construction's a lot easier because it'd be like, if I wasn't there and it was just him, that could not have happened. Like I've seen his solo work and it was not that.
Sure.
But also if you take a picture from far away enough, everything looks fine.
But then also if like, they'll find that out pretty fucking quick.
Exactly. So I super don't care because like we operate on brand. Yep. I don't operate necessarily on my on my work directly. It's like it's kind of on brand and on reputation, which is more than just the pictures of your work.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
This was like early on, and I had somebody tell me about this. He's like, you should like do something, buddy. You should report, or you should whatever, say something. And I was like, I don't fucking care because like, let him try. And I'm like, this guy's not.
Well, no, and it's not like
it doesn't hurt me.
It's not like he's trying to pretend like it's your brand.
Right. He's not trying to be my brand.
He's not being like, hire Surface Studio, and then he hires them and it's him.
Right.
Not you. Right. It's not, that's not what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that, if someone is impersonating you, that's one thing.
Yeah, that's different.
But I think if they're trying to rip off your work, even if they're literally using your exact idea and maybe even, proof of your work in order to do their work, I don't know. Unless it's materially damaging you, I honestly, I just think it's kind of funny to watch. Well, even like, especially if they're not like entirely capable. Because the reason they're using your shit is because they're not capable of doing anything equivalent or better. So if they're going to do it, they're just going to sink themselves.
Let's think about it in like not like macroeconomics, but like in giant companies. Like Pepsi and Coke have essentially the exact same lineup.
I was gonna say like Facebook ripping off products from every other company.
Facebook's a great example, but like let's think I'm thinking like not Pepsi and Coca-Cola companies, but just the original Pepsi and the original Coke.
Right.
They have Coke Zero and Pepsi whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's Pepsi Zero as well. Right? They have like
Pepsi Max.
No, Pepsi Max is double caffeine, double sugar.
Is it?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they only sell it in America and Europe.
Crack cocaine in a bottle. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's double everything.
Really?
They're not like,
I thought it was a no sugar product.
No.
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah. No, I just looked it up the other day for some reason. Okay. I don't remember why, but yeah, it's double, and it's like pretty much only Latin America and Europe markets.
Here's an oxymoron. I'm looking up Pepsi Max Nutrition.
But Coke and Pepsi essentially have the same like sub kinds, right? Like they have the double caffeine one, they have the no calorie one, they have the cherry one, right? But you wouldn't really say they're ripping each other off.
No, it says would you? 0 grams of sugar in Max.
It's double caffeine though, I think.
Yeah, it says on the can no sugar, but it's double caffeine. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. So it's just fucking aspartame or whatever.
Yeah. Which I don't like. I don't like artificial flavors or sweeteners. I think they taste worse.
I would agree.
I'd rather have something with no sweeteners than have fake sweetener.
Absolutely. Like, and this is something that even my mom drilled into my head. She's like, just if you're gonna have something sweet, have just have sugar. Don't, like, the sugar replacements are worse, with the caveat, unless you're diabetic or have whatever other health sensitivities that, like, are amplified by sugar, which obviously I didn't.
Because the aspartame is going to be fucking worse for your liver than
unless you're, you got other health conditions.
Because I know, like, sugar is bad for you, but it's not like cancer causing, is it? Like, it's like,
no, it's just really bad for you.
It's natural. Like, sugar is we've been eating sugar forever.
Yeah, so
right?
it's cocaine.
Yeah, but we haven't
supernatural.
We haven't been. As far as I know, like, chewing on, like, pure coca leaf is, like, actually therapeutic and fine.
Yeah,
it's because they fucking refine it with gasoline and shit that makes it, like, really bad for you.
I mean, is gasoline really that bad for you?
Also, you're like the concentration that you're huffing into your fucking brain, like, versus, like, what a drug would be.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be like if I fucking melted down, like, psilocybin mushrooms and then, like, snorted 1,000 to 1. You know what I mean?
Still be better off than cocaine.
Sure, but, like, well, I saw a TikTok that was like an orangutan, and it's like, when my wife is trying to divorce me and leave because of my gasoline drinking addiction, but the car won't start. I wonder why. Sometimes I get on weird TikTok.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Okay, so, like, would you say that, like, Coke is ripping off Pepsi by making the same product? Like, I don't think so. I think, like, at a certain point, it's what customers want.
I think it's following the industry waves, right?
Because, like, here's another. I think I got the story right. Pepsi, who was the first one to make that clear one in, like, the 70s? Coke. And then Pepsi, the competitor, made a copycat product that tasted bad on purpose to kamikaze their sales.
That's wild.
That's real.
I thought, and Bud Light, didn't Bud Light or Budweiser or AB InBev, whatever, make a clear beer?
I don't know.
Like, clear as water beer, but it, like, didn't sell because, like, even though it tasted just like normal whatever light beer,
people thought it was like,
this is bullshit because it's water. Like, I don't want to drink water, even though they literally just, like, add color back and be like, oh no, it's a good product.
Well, it's like, do you know a lot of dark rums? They're just food coloring it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, have you been following the whole, like, fucking cancel culture Bud Light story?
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. I love it. I love calling it that because conservatives love whining and groveling about cancel culture, but they do it better than everybody.
They fired the marketing chief and head of it, apparently.
Jesus. Yeah, but it wasn't even like a run of, like, branded cans. Didn't they just send, like, they sent, like, a branded can to this trans influencer and then posted about it on social media, and then that social media post is what blew everybody up.
Yeah, well, I think it's like they have brand ambassadors.
Yeah.
And, like, one of the brand ambassadors was trans.
Right.
So then all the conservatives.
Which Bud Light has, like, a 20, 30-year history of, like, promoting LGBTQ members, but it's
fake outrage. All the people mad about it are fucking idiots.
It just fucking blew, like, Kid Rock blew up like a case of Bud Light with a machine gun.
Except that I saw a picture of Kid Rock in a dress in the 90s or whatever.
Literally.
It's
all these people are fucking...
they're just trying to make money.
They're parodies of themselves.
They're grifters.
But I was going to say, I don't know if you heard about this part, but in Belgium, they intercepted a shipment of Miller High Life because it said, like in France, they've got the Champagne region. So they intercepted their shipment of Miller High Life, which has had the slogan of, like, the champagne of beers for, like, fucking 20 years or whatever.
Because they're not allowed to say champagne?
Yeah. Because it said champagne on the can, they made a video, they poured them all out, fucking crushed the cans.
Like the government of France?
And tossed them out. Yeah, the government of France. And it's like, you can't use fucking champagne in our backyard.
That's funny.
And, like, destroyed this whole shipment of Miller High Life, which I think honestly,
Cancel culture.
the result of that is like, I've never had a can of Miller High Life. I'm like, I kind of want to try it now. It's like I don't know if that whole thing is effective now. I'm just thinking of Miller High Life.
I think Miller High Life is like the same as like
It's like-
Coors Banquet,
It's like
like
mid.
equivalent.
It's like fine.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to get back quick onto that original topic, but like go into the second part. So we can agree that business doesn't really give a shit about, your feelings.
Well,
Maybe if I wanted to do it politely and keep a friendship with them, I would be open and honest about it, and I wouldn't like directly compete with them. But this brings me into like, he has wanted retailers. So there's a pretty big retail chain here called Sobeys. Sobeys Safeway. It's like our biggest grocery chain in the country. And they wanted to put his products in some of their stores, and he said no.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to do more work, I think, and didn't want to take the haircut for selling wholesale.
Yeah. Which is a lot more work for much less price per bottle.
Yeah,
But way more money because you can just crank out more bottles.
It's also not that, like, manufacturing works at scale, right?
Exactly.
Like,
but he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about his own time,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. And I think
He's not thinking about the leverage of equipment and labor.
if I recall correctly, he sells in his house right now.
Yeah.
Or he produces from his house, and he's allowed to do that because he only sells at farmers markets.
Right, so you'd have to go commercial.
He would have to go and rent a commercial kitchen and get a license for that
Right.
and do all this, et cetera, et cetera. Which, like, that's what everyone fucking does.
Yeah, but he doesn't have an appetite for it yet.
He doesn't have an appetite, and, like, apparently doesn't want to.
Like, he doesn't have any like,
He has
yeah,
no-
even in a little bit of that I've spoken to him, he has zero appetite for
Yeah, he
it.
has no plans to.
No.
Right? Because, like, I know some people that have gotten requested by, like, co-ops or stores. Sobeys is a hard one to get into. The
Yes.
fact that he got requested and turned it down, I was like, oh, bro.
That's
Like,
shooting yourself in the foot, yeah.
But, like, so Sobeys is hard, but, like, so there's a bunch of people I know, pretty small businesses that have gotten into our local co-op stores, which is a local cooperative grocery store here. And they have a whole local section. That's kind of their thing. So I know a bunch of people that have gotten in there, and I know more people that have gotten requested, and they're like, I can't hit your minimums.
Right.
Because when you go to that meeting, they're like, okay, here's how much we need every month.
Yeah.
Like, delivered to all of our stores.
And it would probably take a significant investment from those people.
Yeah, so more money than they have, also, like, more capacity than they have, and, like, for a lot of them, it's like they don't have enough. They couldn't be delivering those to all these stores.
Right.
They don't have a truck or whatever.
Right. Yeah, they've got to physically create a business all of a sudden.
Yeah. So they've said no, but
it's a big jump.
and then I've talked to them about it, and they're like, oh, I really want to. So that's what I'm going to do over this next year is get my resources up, get the fucking packaging finished, get my barcodes done, and then, know, and then go into it. But, like, my friend here is just like, oh, no, I never want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, at a certain point I respect it. But, like, if I made a competing product, I would go wholesale.
Yeah.
I would get in those grocery stores.
Yeah, I would so back to your earlier point of, like, business doesn't have feelings, business doesn't care. I really don't like that sentiment just simply because I think it's a cop-out to people being like, I don't have to adhere to, like, human ethics and decency because profits. I think...
Yeah, but why is, like, okay, would you say taking somebody's job is, like, ethically incorrect? Like, say, if you got hired at a place, or I'll use your exact business. You get hired to be a contractor and somebody else loses out on the bid.
Yeah.
Is that you being unethical against them because you took their fucking contract?
No. So that's not... I'm not saying that you can't compete. I'm saying that ethics is still relevant. So if I did something unethical to win the bid, like, for example, shit talked them, made up something about them, like, did something that's, like, false or unethical or whatever, or took insider information that I knew about them because of a trusted relationship and turned it against them, whatever. Like, if I did something like that, I would say, yes, that's a shitty thing, that's unethical. Or if I undercut, like, this is common in construction, I undercut the bid, you get the job, and then once you get the job, you just, like, start adding on, and then you, like, you crank up your number past what the other people were at because that's where your number actually is, but you do it on the back end. Like, there's like a lot of shitty ways to do business that like kind of flirt with ethics and can be like just like, oh, business, bud. I think it's a cop out in a lot of ways, but I'm not saying that you can't do this without violating ethics. All I'm saying is you have to apply your personal ethics to this and don't say because business is business, get fucked. I think you should look at it like, okay, so this guy is, you definitely respect the farmer's market hustle, right?
100%.
Like the free market, make product, sell product to,
it's one of the
whatever.
One of the purest forms of capitalism
exactly.
is a farmer's market where you just show up on a corner and start selling shit.
So that's your standard of ethics, and I think you would probably be on the same page. So as long as you don't violate that, I would say if you were, think about old school, if you and another guy were going to go sell on street corners, you probably wouldn't sell on opposite street corners. Although there is something to be said about the advantage of that, but I don't think in this case there would be, right? Like a lot of stores, they set up on like literal opposite street corners to kind of create like hubs of commerce, right? I don't think that's relevant with like a farmer's market. So my point being, I wouldn't go and sell in his backyard and directly try to steal away from his product sales where he makes a living, because he makes a living in a very limited way. You've got more capital, you've got more capability, you've got a greater willingness, like you're willing to go wholesale, do all these things. If I were you, I would just go straight over this guy's head, go to bigger markets he doesn't attend to, go to any markets that you're at that he doesn't, go ahead and sell, and then jump straight to wholesale and try to get into that market right past him and just hit all the missed opportunities that he's not doing. And sure, he can be jealous, but he can't be upset at you because you didn't take shit away from him.
So I guess like, I think I already know what your answer is going to be, but do you think that's not a violation of ethics by like, I know that he's not willing or capable to go into the wholesale route, so I go over his head, go into the wholesalers and try and list a competing product?
I think that's fine. He got there first.
Yeah, he could have done it.
He literally had an offer on the table.
Yeah, he could have done it.
He could still take every single day between now and when you get that deal.
Yeah, do it.
He could do it.
Yeah,
every single day, and up until that day when you even make that offer, he could probably come and make a competing offer.
Yeah,
and he has the legacy. He has the previous. He has every opportunity in the world. If people leave money on the table, it's on the table. Fucking take it. I
guess
you're not gonna. It will make no material difference. I think that my point is like, if you materially impact him, that's one thing. But if you just do something that affects him emotionally, I think that's irrelevant.
But like, if I grow a brand large, it might impact him financially.
Maybe not, because if you're not selling directly in competition with him, like this is like especially retail products, it's all about access, right? Like you said, Coke versus Pepsi. Because Pepsi literally bought the KFC Taco Bell chains because they wanted like exclusivity to those chains. So if you are all of a sudden you get this in the stores and it's selling big, and people go to a place where he is and you're not, and they're like, oh, I love this product, whatever, and they see his version of it, they'll buy it.
Well, maybe.
Potentially, because if they like the idea of the product, they're like, oh, I like this thing, this version, that version, whatever, I'll buy it. So, I mean, you could, in that kind of perspective, you can raise awareness of the product concept.
I guess, yeah, rising tides lifts all boats, right? Like,
right.
Like,
because if you make him less novel, that could benefit him.
We talk about that a lot with craft beers. Like, any sale taken away from Budweiser is a win. It doesn't matter which craft brewery is selling it. Yeah. It's just switching someone's like ideology from buying macro to buying micro is a win.
Yeah, and you're talking like micro competition here. You're talking about a tiny percentage of a type of a product that people buy. Yeah. So it's like this guy is eating up, 1% of this tiny market, and you're gonna take another 1 or 2% of this tiny localized market.
Yeah.
what are you really doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess like
just as like a respect thing, I wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't want to look at this guy across the floor and be like, we're selling the same shit.
Yeah.
Personally, but I don't know.
I also like, I know I can outcompete and just
that's the thing. You could crush him, but that's the thing. Like that's just because you can doesn't mean you need to.
That's fair.
Especially if you have a successful business already, it can just be seen as like an arrogant fuck you.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to do this, but I'm doing it just to.
I only have 2 successful businesses. I want 100.
Rip.
Or actually, I want 69. Then I'll retire.
Which is why like the ethics of becoming a billionaire is always questioned by people, because it's like you can become a millionaire without being problematic. I think you can make,
I think easily
you can make tens of millions, you can make even hundreds of millions, by like genuinely contributing value and making, you know, a measurable difference in whatever way, and being compensated for that. But when you get like the gap between making 50 million and making $1 billion is monstrous. That's the difference between someone that works at McDonald's and someone that's a millionaire. You got to remember, in literal terms, that's someone that makes 50 million versus $1 billion. That's the difference between McDonald's manager and real estate millionaire. That is the gap.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you're making 50 million a year, in order to jump to $1 billion, you have to cross, I believe, like, I don't know exactly what the threshold is, but there's a certain point. There's a certain threshold that you cross from like I create value to I crush competition and I consolidate. Because at a certain point, that's what's required in order to grow, is to crush and consolidate. Which is, I mean, there's a few weird, rare exceptions. Like, I mean, you come up with some like revolutionary product of technology, but that's also...
All the examples I can think of are like tech companies in like the early 2010s.
Exactly, like Apple and shit like that.
Yeah, where they actually, like, even like Facebook, right? There was nothing like that before.
Yeah.
Like maybe MySpace, but not really though.
But also, in order to become a personal billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg had to fuck over quite a lot of people.
Yeah. And I guess like, well, because like me and you, I think probably agree that like, I don't personally believe having employees is exploitation. Like I don't particularly believe in excess value theft.
Yeah, not strictly. I think like in a perfect world, I think running a co-op would be really cool, especially with tradespeople.
Yeah.
But not all tradespeople are created equal, and I think at a certain point, the co-op still needs to be managed.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Well, like
max and optimized by somebody.
My employees, like I consider most of us pretty close with each other. Like and I all like they see a lot of they see all our sales, they see a lot of our books, and I consistently get them being like, are you okay? Like, you do not make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, cause like most of my employees make more money than I do.
Yeah. But flip the script on that. Say you're making 10 times as much as your employees. How does that change your dynamic?
But like a lot of the money aside, like not talking about money, I've had them being like, I don't want to do what you do in a day.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to have to think about what you think about. Because, like, I've had them been like, why are you up at 4 a.m? I'm like, oh, this needed to get done. It's like, oh, like,
yeah, people, like, there's, I think about this actually a lot. Like, one of my guys right now that is my protege, he had an opportunity basically to co-own or own his own company. But he got basically a taste of the good life, wink, wink, of running his own crew. I'm saying wink, wink, sarcastically, good life. So he's running his own crew for a summer of like 6-7 guys. And he's like, when the day ends, I cannot check out and stop thinking about work. He's like, I got to think about like, what are we doing tomorrow? What's this guy doing? What's that guy doing? Do we have this on site? Do we have this? Do we have that on site? I'm checking the weather to make sure it's okay. I'm texting people to make sure that, you know, they're going to show up. And, you know, somebody text me, they're like, oh, I'm gonna be sick, I got dogs. Like, there's all this shit that happens after hours, and he's like, I can't fucking handle it. He's like, it drove me insane, I hate it. And I'm like, from my perspective, I'm like, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
I would just like to be compensated for it. So I'm like, that's me. That's my default, and I just want to be compensated for it. And he's like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be bothered. I don't want to be interested. I don't want it. He's like, I got my work. I want to check the fuck out at 5 o'clock.
Go home and drink a
Don't
Miller
call
High
me.
Life.
Don't text me. If you call me, text me. I'm not answering. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yep.
And he kills it from 8 to 5, but then he's outside of that, and could not be bothered. Because he's completely risk adverse too.
Like, not a lot of I don't know a lot of like true communists, but like, you know, those like edgy internet socialist types that are like, vote for Bernie because he's a communist.
Yeah,
but it's like, oh come on.
Like, there's room for entrepreneurship in all those systems.
But those type of people, I think, would tell you that CEOs don't work hard at all. Right. That then they're getting just compensated because capitalism. They don't. Which is
false. I mean, like there's a middle ground of truth here between the capitalists and the communists.
I think those type of people also want to like share all the reward without sharing all the risk.
I don't think it's a risk reward thing.
But like they'd want to.
CEOs don't take on risk.
Well, okay, CEO is the bad. I was just saying CEO is like a. Because that's what they would say.
Right.
I hate the like, CEOs run the world. It's like CEO is like 19 people down from the top.
True.
And they're the fucking figurehead that gets fired if something goes wrong. Like, I want to be director
but
of the board.
They get fired with a $17 million severance package.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. Right? It's like, I don't want to be a CEO. I want to be a like
dictator.
No, I want to be like a 9.9% stakeholder in the company, so I don't have to report to the fucking FinTrack my ownership, right? Like, I think the CEO is one of the most overworked, dare I even say it controversially, underpaid positions.
I think it really depends on the CEO.
I think, like we're talking like the CEO that you're thinking of that are making $17 million, I think is like there's probably 1,000 of them.
It's a small number, yeah.
Like, I think a lot of them are making $200,000 and working 18 hours a day.
Well, they're not just working 18 hours a day. Like, it consumes your life, it consumes your mind, and it almost overtakes your personality and your lifestyle.
My business is all I can think about.
Right. Which is like, how do you you're effectively sacrificing all of your time, your fucking personality, your entire space for free thought. And
imagine doing that and then still being an employee.
Right. And
that's what a CEO is.
And everything that happens below you and above you, you are accountable to, whether or not you have control over it.
And accountable for below you, yeah.
So, I mean, like, having the higher that, like, the highest, quote unquote, highest rank that I've ever held in a company with the most responsibility, greatest compensation, what I found is the higher that I rose and the more money that I made, the greater the percentage of my day that was just entirely spent eating shit.
Yep.
Like, that's basically how that was the equivalence that I drew. I'm like, oh, the more you're willing to eat shit, the more money you can make. Because in companies, sure, the money trickles to the top, but so does the bullshit.
Yeah.
All the biggest problems, all the biggest crises, like, all the responsibilities, they all trickle up. At a certain point, they hit a guy who's like absolutely responsible to solve that problem. And you just, like, for example, you think about the worst customer you have to deal with. If you cannot solve their problem, you push it up to the manager. If the manager cannot solve the problem, he pushes it up to his boss. At a certain point,
someone has to deal with it
and deal with that fucking customer.
I suggest you send it to our automatic email system, sir.
Right. And I've been that customer, and I kind of like, I did this first because it was fair, but secondly because I was kind of interested in like seeing what happened, and I just pulled my inner Karen with my cell phone provider, and I got up to like the district regional manager and like still got a shit deal. But it was like that. The guy that had to deal with me, his rank, I just think about the percentage of his day that is spent dealing with shit like that, which is probably most of it.
I just got a bad review on Facebook because a customer opened their wine and had it too long and it went bad, and I wouldn't give them a refund for it.
Jesus Christ.
And then they like
Oh, you oxidized your own wine?
Yeah, I responded to it. Like they called and I'm like, sorry, nothing I can do. And then they went out of their way to leave a bad review.
Right.
And I just didn't respond to the review because I'm like, whatever. It's just like, I'm not going to solve it. But I was going to respond like, so if you go to buy a fucking avocado and it goes bad, can you go back to Safeway and get another one? Like, fuck off.
I mean, the guy at Safeway might give you a refund because he doesn't care, but
like, fuck off. Like,
yeah, absolutely fuck off.
Anyway, we're going to transfer here into the part of the show that you, the audience, can pick the shot that we take. Sticking with the theme of this episode, we're just going to take a Jägermeister. Yeah, Jägermeister. Jägermeister shot.
Why is there a caribou on the label?
He's a Jäger.
What?
Jäger. It's German for caribou.
Oh.
I don't think that's true. I don't think they have. It's definitely a deer. I don't think they have caribou.
I'm gonna say, in the true spirit of this podcast, no statements are fact checked.
Willows bullshitting as usual.
Kind of like Tucker Carlson. Anyways,
I used to have a. Let's take a shot and I'll tell the story quick. Cheers. Thank you, Jägermeister, for sponsoring this episode. I used to have a YouTube show when I was like 11 with my friend, which, by the way, if I had stuck with and made one every week like we do this podcast, I'd be famous by now. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. Because that was like when YouTube was going through, like you could just get famous by posting every day.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind if I had stuck with it. But I had a falling out with the guy that I made it with. Anyway, and I'm not going to name it but it won't take you too long to find it. It's still on the internet. You can find it. You can see how I am 12 years old.
Back in the Freddy days.
But we had a segment on it called Total BS News, where I just gave news that was like just completely pulled out of my ass. But it was like I had to do it without like stammering or like like I just had to like go
ad-lib it. Yeah,
basically ad-lib it, and like that was part of it. And yeah, that was pretty funny. What the fuck is Jägermeister? That's the real question.
Yeah, no, honestly I have no idea.
It's a liqueur that they age in oak and just add a bunch of botanicals to.
Tastes like liquor somehow.
I know Jaegers were like a German mercenary in like colonial times.
And Meister
means man, I think.
Something like that.
Because like no, that's Mensch. Because Ubermensch was like Hitler's like
Meister is like a leader and master. Let me look it up real quick. Meister. Okay. Meister meaning skilled or prominent in a specified area. That's our master.
I feel like there's so many. Isn't that weird? Like there's so many alcohols that are just like ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Like if you said Jägermeister, everyone knows what you're talking about, but it's like, what the fuck is it? No one knows what it is. You know, there's a lot of shit like that.
There's something to be said for I was going to say, there's a lot of household names, but also the household names of things that people don't know what it is, but they know what it is anyways.
Yeah, that's, which is weird.
Like, oh, it's like Jaeger.
And you're like, what? Like,
what is Jaeger? It's like,
alcohol.
I don't know, it's Jaeger.
Alcohol especially.
Yeah.
No, and then like stuff gets like almost genericized.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, use like a Bailey's or something like that. And you're like, what is that?
Nobody says like a rum chata.
Yeah. Or a herbal liqueur, like, you know, instead of a Jägermeister, you'd be like using a Jägermeister or an equivalent in your drink. Like,
right.
Yeah. So, and I guess like because like this is certainly, since 1878, like
staple,
yeah.
So one thing that I have to mention because it's timely. So what have you heard about the whole Tucker debacle?
The only thing I've heard is that Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon were fired on the same day.
And someone named Shell, who was like a producer on Tucker's show. Yeah,
I've heard conflicting. I heard that he left in protest, but then apparently Fox released a statement being like, no, that's not true. We fucking fired that guy too. And also Don Lemon posted a response to, he's like, I was not consulted or whatever. And then CNN releases a statement being like, no, we invited him to a meeting. He didn't show up.
Right.
Like, so who the fuck knows? But apparently, Murdoch himself decided to fire.
Yeah, shit can.
Like big boss himself.
Apparently, he was, and this is for anybody who's like on the fence about it. Tucker was informed of his quote unquote firing less than 10 minutes before the press release went out that he was quote unquote amicably leaving the company. They were agreeing to part ways. So they like did that as a favor to him. They're like, yeah, we're parting ways, blah,
so
blah,
he
blah.
Can keep his
he can save face to agree.
Yeah.
But
can't fire me, I quit.
Exactly. There's a lot of speculation about like what his non-competes might be. Like he probably can't get into news for some period of time. But either way, apparently he's been like dodging text messages, calls, any correspondence from anybody. He's acting like a guy who got fired. He's not acting like a guy who quit. And he signed off his last show being like, I'll see you guys next week, or I'll see you on Monday, whatever. And then was fired right before his next show.
Well, it was obviously unexpected.
He was obviously fired.
I saw something funny that was like some conservative complaining, like the fucking indecency to give someone 10 minutes notice before they fire you. And then I respond like, dude, have you ever been fired? That's how it happened. Like
you just get fired.
They call you into the office. They get the fuck out of here, Tommy. You're fucking shitty. Like,
literally.
So.
Or even better, you go to like sign in the morning and your login don't work. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way.
Yeah, it's capitalism, baby. Like,
yeah, get the fuck out. Especially at Fox. Like they have a track record of doing this. Like they unceremoniously fire their top guy. They've done that a bunch of times, but it's never for like
what you think
the reasons that everyone else would think. The only reason you get fired at Fox is because you become such a large HR liability that they can no longer stomach you.
Who was the other guy? Rush Limbaugh, was that him?
No.
One of them like raped somebody, didn't they?
Yeah. So there was the CEO of Fox who they made that Netflix movie about.
Oh, Narcos.
Yeah.
The Hunger Games.
Why can't I think of his fucking name? This is why I shouldn't drink while podcasting.
I don't really care as well.
Okay, anyways, there's whatever the Margot Robbie Netflix movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, literally.
Margot Robbie is literally my dream girl.
Queen bitch. So she played this like innocent conservative, and she goes to Fox and then gets like sexually assaulted by the CEO. That guy, whatever, real story, got fired because was a serial sexual offender within the company. And then also the host that was like the last big name before Tucker. Honestly, it's fine that I don't mention his name. He's better left forgotten. And
the guy that died?
No, he's not dead yet.
Oh.
I just got fired for sexually assaulting like dozens of women.
Didn't one of them die?
I hope.
Like pretty recently? One of those big guys.
Limbaugh, right?
Bill O'Reilly?
Bill O'Reilly, that's the name.
He died, right?
Probably.
Didn't he fucking die of like
cancer? Yeah, so Bill O'Reilly was the one before Tucker. And then I'll remember his name eventually.
I only remember the fuck it, let's do it live thing.
Right.
I don't care about American.
So Tucker was bigger than Bill O'Reilly though. Like you can't understate the fact that Tucker could go on the news, whatever, quote unquote news with great sarcasm, in the evening, and say some shit, and he could directly correspond with like Donald Trump and directly influence policy. Like he said some shit about migrants going to Martha's Vineyard, and then DeSantis literally took some fucking migrants and airshipped them to Martha's Vineyard. He said some shit to Greg Abbott about like the border security in Texas. It's like, why don't you mobilize the National Guard? And he immediately mobilized the National Guard. Like he had outsized power that was like completely unusual to media personalities, period. And he had a crazy amount of pull.
So rather than like talk about like current events, because like people listen to this in the future and it's not entertaining, I want to talk more about like this. So Tucker Carlson leaving Fox.
Yeah.
This happened to a local DJ here.
Right.
Can't say his name, but he got fired for making I think it was a transphobic thing.
Right.
But he was pretty big. He was like apparently most listened local show.
Yeah.
And had a bunch of support. But then when he left, he started a podcast, but he was saying the only reason he started a podcast is because he signed his contract like pre-internet. Like because he had been there for like 20 years or whatever. So his contract didn't specifically say you can't do a podcast.
Right.
And apparently they had tried to come back at him and renegotiate it.
Yeah.
And every time he was like, no.
Yeah.
Because that's maybe something I want to do on the side. And he said that it was standard in new contracts that says you don't own your name anymore. So if you ever make a podcast on the side, you can't call it the Tucker Carlson podcast.
Right.
You can't use your name to promote it because Fox owns that. I don't know the details of his contract, but I just remember this local DJ, this was a huge controversy at the time. So I was like, paying attention to it. And he was laughing, I guess, at them because they're like, haha, because now they were trying to cease and desist him. And he was like, nope, fuck you. It's not in my contract.
Right.
And he was able to win that. But apparently that's standard now is that you can't go and do a show on the internet. You can't make YouTube videos. You can't, because you don't own your own image.
Although I feel like that's not enforceable in the laws of non-compete because you can use your own name. You cannot, someone else cannot patent your name. No,
but there is, America, it's also different. I only know the laws for Canada. I think America, it's more restrictive.
Contract law is king.
In Canada, you can't prevent. My lawyer tells me this all the time because I make all my employees sign a non-compete.
Yeah.
That's like, and not like I'm making them sign a non-compete, but like it's a standard employment contract with a non-compete clause and a non-disclosure clause and all this.
Yeah.
And my lawyer said the non-disclosure clause is enforceable. Non-competes generally are not.
Right.
Because he said in Canada, you can't, and judges time and time again have sided with this, you can't prevent someone from working in their field.
Right.
If this is what
the only exceptions are typically people that like sell a business.
The only exceptions to my knowledge are non-solicitation agreements are enforceable.
Yes.
And that's if an employee of yours or a partner, ex-partner, whatever, starts a competing business, they can't take your clients.
Right. That's easy also to get around, where you just create a paper trail of solicitation in the other direction. If the client
if they reach out to you, then
right.
It's fine. Yeah, but
I know, for example, a person who sold their company to a giant Japanese technology company, Hitachi, and it was like, and they had a non-compete for a number of years, and because it was like you cannot compete with the business operations like this, it was like as broad as with the business operations of Hitachi,
because they make microwaves.
They make literally everything.
Cars and
TVs. They make fucking like from like payloaders to microwaves. They make everything. So he's like, I can't work. Period.
Yeah.
So for the period of the non-compete, he got a government job.
Yeah.
Because
fuck off.
the government, it was conceivably the only way that he could make money and not be non-competing. But he complied to it because he's like, I'm not going to go into a legal battle with Hitachi, who has billions of dollars and
billions of yen
and infinite lawyers.
Yeah.
And also, I'm flush with cash. I don't give a fuck. I'll just do whatever. I don't want to bother with it. And it's like, that's the only kind of non-compete that works, at least in our country.
But also, like, time and time again, we've seen threatening to sue someone is more effective than suing them.
Yeah. Cease and desist?
Really effective.
Yeah, no,
but you can't.
I got some funny stories about cease and desist, but
So
like in the startup culture, it's funny. Like, being like, that's not a real document. Fuck them.
Yes.
Fuck them. Wait for the real suit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
So but like you can't. If somebody works in a job for their entire lives and you fire them, or they quit to start their own business, you can't legally prevent people from working in their own industry.
No, you cannot.
By non-compete.
You should not be able to. The only thing you should be able to prevent is use of your brand, use of your image, use of your proprietary information, period.
Yeah. Well, another thing that people I know that talk about all the time. So let's go back to this just to stay on topic. We're talking about this like Tucker Carlson and the podcast guy.
Yeah.
It's like most employment contracts where you're creating intellectual property state that any intellectual property you work on belongs to the company.
Yes.
His brand as a broadcaster is intellectual property.
Yes.
Owned by the company. In theory.
How do you quantify that?
Well, that's what the lawyers are for.
I cannot like physically change my face.
Obviously.
Right.
But it's happened before where, and like I know, because it's happened here and I've like paid attention to the story, is like he couldn't use part of his own brand.
Yeah.
Because he didn't own it. Because like Tucker Carlson, the broadcaster, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Fox News.
Also,
I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying it like as a...
Also, Tucker Carlson has hundreds of millions of dollars, and he could fight. He could afford.
Well,
he could afford the legal battle.
Well, and then I think you make it just not Tucker Carlson, right? You make it like Buck with Tuck.
Literally.
But Buck fuck with Tuck.
Buck fuck with
Tuck.
And business idea.
And and then like you do it different enough that they can't sue you.
Yeah, it's not the 8 o'clock show news with Tucker.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it's not news. I'm just talking on the fucking... Or no, the funny part would be he does a news show and Fox tries to sue him, and then the judge is like, you're not news.
you said specifically you were not news.
You're entertainment, and this is a news show. So.
That would be funny, actually.
But like, he's gone on like Nelk Boys.
Yeah.
And that fucking podcast got like tens of millions of views. Like,
which is more than the show gets.
People care what he has to say.
He has
Tucker Carlson.
He has an outsized impact, like because of he doesn't have a big impact because of viewership per se, but it's because of it's like the spin-offs of the social media takes of what he says, and it's also the legitimacy of him saying it on cable news.
Which like he's not going to be able to
The
anymore.
Platform legitimizes him, and I think he is going to be significantly reduced as a brand because of this. Like he's going to be relevant. Like he'll be fine. He'll make a living, whatever. But I think his legitimacy is going to be materially impacted.
Well, do you think he'll go the way of like Alex Jones?
I think he's going to go the way of Shapiro.
Okay.
My money is on he lands a Daily Wire.
I think he's going to do his own thing. Is my personal.
I vote he's going to land a Daily Wire, and he's going to run for president in the next 2 to 4 elections.
You think he'll run for president?
Yes.
Crazy. I don't know about that.
I might rescind this in 6 months, but as of today, if he can recover and preserve his brand, if he can come out fucking guns blazing,
he wouldn't run against Trump though.
No, he wouldn't. No, but he hates Trump.
But he wouldn't try.
But he wouldn't because his viewers like Trump, and he's endorsed Trump.
Yeah.
The fact that he hates him, he'll wait till Trump dies.
Yeah.
But
in 3 years.
If he can stay relevant, if he can preserve his brand, if he can, guns blazing, preserve himself, his image, next 6 months will tell. But I basically wanted to get into like the nuance of like why people believe he's fired. So I think I always undervalue the fact that like I pay attention to a lot more variety of media than most people do. But the number of the different reasons that people have been reporting that he was fired almost certainly was not because of what he said that got him sued. Because Fox hosts have never been like really fired for saying dumb shit on the internet or on stream. He was fired because he's a gigantic HR liability. And I think basically Fox looked at all the lawsuits associated with Tucker, and they looked at the revenue associated with Tucker, and they realized that this was a net loss situation. So he brings in about $78 million a year, and he's been going for about a decade. So if you do the maths on that, about $780 million he's brought in for Fox. And the lawsuit they just lost to Dominion Voting Systems was, well, like
$2 billion?
No, it was like 800 million. The initial lawsuit was 1.6 billion, but they settled at about 800 million before the trial because they knew they were going to lose.
I thought Big Boss said it was because of the Jan 6 thing.
So this is, again, the messaging part of it. It's like there's like the reason they say, and then there's the reason that is. So I think the January 6th thing alarmed Murdoch for a lot of reasons, for valid reasons.
Is he still in charge?
Murdoch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't he like 99?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So there was actually a judge that recently...
Shout out Logan Roy.
Yeah. There's a judge that tossed out the fact that Rupert Murdoch was not an officer of the company. He's like, no, that's not fucking relevant. He's obviously still in full control and command of the company.
It's like how Elon's not on the board of Tesla.
But he's still in control.
Except Kimball's on the board. Exactly.
So he's materially still in control. So that was one of the parts of the lawsuit that made them surrender to Dominion. Not going to get into the weeds of that, but basically the only thing that gets you fired at Fox is if you become such a massive HR liability that is untenable for you to become an employee there or to remain an employee there anymore. So there was a lawsuit by a former producer where she was suing for like a toxic work environment that was like super misogynist, super anti-Semitic and racist. So the first day she had at work, working under the Tucker show, Tucker plastered like photoshopped like bikini model pictures of Nancy Pelosi all over her office. That was like her first day in. She's like, what the fuck? Why Pelosi? Why bikini pictures? Why titties? Why everywhere? Like, that was her first day in. They held mock debates. So when there was, I think Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and there's like another Republican congressperson that were supposed to be interviewed on the same night. Tucker and his writers and producers held a mock debate in the office of like, who's more fuckable, this governor or that governor?
You know the episode of The Office where they are debating if Helen Mirren's hot or not?
Right. Yeah, it was like that, but
that's
far
what
worse.
I'm thinking.
So there's an existing lawsuit from this former Fox producer against Fox, naming Tucker as toxic work environment, super misogynist, super racist, like apparently like use of the C word around women, super derogatory comments,
I think that like
degrading comments, like just an absolutely awful place to be around is anywhere near Tucker Carlson.
If women want to be in the workplace, like I think they should have to put up with that. That's just equal rights.
Fair. So that was one part of it. There's also another Fox insider that said, as a part of this whole Dominion debacle, that named specifically the correspondence that were found in Discovery with this lawsuit with Dominion, which is hilarious because it's opening up a whole shit can of worms against Fox. There's going to be actually probably a lot of lawsuits against Fox because a lot was revealed in these emails and text messages that they were knowingly lying about things. And there's a lot of other corporations and individuals that will be filing or that will be suing them for defamation that could likely win because the precedence of this settlement has been set. So they're going to be in court for the next decade, period. But anyways, one of these emails that has not been released yet because for whatever reasons I don't understand, they can selectively release these things found in Discovery. But apparently
it's like if something's like releasing it will affect like how people there's points in Discovery where you release Discovery.
Right.
And it's like
relevance to the case.
Relevance to like the point you're at in the case. Or I think there's a thing that's like if you release there's been like situations where they release something so then the other party goes and destroys the rest of it.
Right.
So they like wait until everything's admitted and then they like tell you what they have kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, relevance. Relevance is a big thing.
There's like and it's like the actual lawyer has to actually see it and they have to show it to the opposite lawyer before they can like enter it to the courts. There's a bunch of procedure of
disclosure.
It's why like no one just runs into the courtroom and goes, I have the fucking bombshell evidence like they do in the movies, right? Like, you have to enter that 7 weeks ago into the record.
It has to be reviewed by both sides.
You can't pull something out in court without entering it into evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, in that process, something that was deemed like irrelevant to the specific case of Dominion apparently was it was either an email or a text message. I think it was an email from Tucker that was, quote, so anti-Semitic it was legally actionable.
Against which race, though? He said Semite.
Anti-Semitic. Like, so this guy is like unironically been against women. He's been anti-Semitic. He's been like white supremacist. He's been great replacement theory. He's been all these things. Like, he says the quiet shit out loud all the time, and the fact that he is these things in private
is problematic.
Is unsurprising.
That's fair, because like I think we're Alex Jones fans on this show.
100%.
I think Alex Jones is the opposite.
Entertainment value 10 out of 10.
Where Alex Jones is more ridiculous on air than he is in real life.
Right, but he doesn't have the legitimacy of Tucker.
No, everyone thinks he's crazy.
Right.
But like, because like you listen to like Joe Rogan, and I know Joe Rogan is his own can of worms.
Yeah.
But you listen to Joe Rogan talk to him as like a person.
Yeah.
He's like, no, he's fine. Like, he's just...
He was on a bender for a while, and he said some dumb shit.
He's just crazy, like...
The fact that people believe that Tucker is news is what the problem is.
Yeah, I think, like, I will defend Alex Jones. I think that he's apologized for the Sandy Hook thing and should be like... No, he has. He's apologized. He said he was wrong.
After he lost the suit.
No, before that. He apologized and said he was wrong and rescinded everything. And I think, if memory serves, put it up on the screen, raised money for them at the end of the day, for the families.
But he also refused to admit that what he did was entertainment. But
the fact that he's being punished for it so far that he goes into bankruptcy, I also think is good.
That's totally fair.
Like, that's fair. Yeah. If you fuck around, find out, right?
Literally.
So I don't think he should get... I think he deserves everything that he got, but I also think he has apologized. Because the thing with him is he's right so often, where he's like, this was a psyop, and it was.
I wouldn't say so often.
I don't know.
He's right probably 1 out of 100 statements he makes.
I don't know. I think it's more than that, honestly.
No, you got to remember, this guy puts out hours a day.
Yeah.
And he gets like 2 things a year right.
No, I think he gets way more than that right.
So,
I don't know.
Whatever the number is, I think it's under 5%.
I wholeheartedly believe...
Like, they're making the frogs gay was like... Not wrong, but also was not correct.
What people don't get about that meme is that was like a environmentalist thing. He was like, these giant corporations are dumping chemicals in the water.
No, that wasn't it. It was like literally. This is the frogs gay thing. I mean, we've joked about it before, so I want to clarify. So birth control, look up the science, causes women to urinate out excess estrogen.
Okay.
Goes into the sewage system.
Sure.
And this is like, when you look at the context of millions of people.
And it makes the frogs gay because there's so much estrogen.
The sewage system gets a really high concentration of estrogen as compared to normal, and frogs exist within the ecosystem where this excess sewage is dumped, so they get a really high dose of estrogen, and it like converts the sexual makeup of these frogs, and it makes them mate, like you're making male frogs mate with other males because like the estrogen is super, whatever reason. The frogs gay thing is like a comedy editorialization of like the real issue of like, oh, concentrated sewage is leaking into ecosystems.
Yeah.
But he spins it into these fucking liberals and their fucking birth control are making the frogs gay. That's the editorialization of
we talk about
sewage is infecting the ecosystem.
We talk about that all the time where it's like, you had us until the last part.
Right, yeah. Like, you're not wrong.
No, because he's like, Alex Jones says a lot of anti-capitalist things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And even like he's acknowledged that.
No, he is... Alex Jones was a definitely
Anarchist,
left of center,
For
maybe
sure.
far left until Trump came along.
But then he doesn't
And then
like Trump anymore.
And then he fucking backpacked on Trump.
Yeah.
Because it made him popular, but he doesn't like Trump anymore because obviously Trump's a piece of shit and he's stupid, and Jones realizes that, and obviously Jan 6 and all that shit didn't work out.
Basically, what is true in real life is that every single American politician is far right. They're all capitalists, and capitalism is bad. Alex Jones believes that they're all the same and they're all bad, but then he believes it's because they're serving alien demons.
No, I think it's less complicated than that. I think at the end of the day, he believes that he's going to make that cash money, and he'll say whatever he can to get the views.
I don't think that's true, because he's in court on record saying that he could have custody of his children if he just admitted that he's doing this for money, and he doesn't believe it, and he said he's not. He believes it, and he lost custody of his children.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways.
There's
a lot of ways to take that.
He's like, no, this is true. Like, I don't know. He's either insane or like he's really committed to the bit. Both. And I think either is fine.
I think both is fine. So back to the Tucker thing.
We gotta finish up. But
yeah. I think it's important to understand that Tucker did not get terminated because of just specifically he said some dumb shit on TV. I think he had a lot of HR liabilities coming down the pike with the anti-Semitism he engaged in the workplace, the misogyny that he engaged in, the sexual harassment that he engaged in, and within the Fox News workplace, it was becoming like an unsustainable, like toxic rot in the company. Rip. Willis just took a massive hit off a bong.
I literally wasn't even drinking anything, and I just started coughing.
You took a huge hit off a massive bong. If you follow us on YouTube.
If you watch the YouTube version of this video on
you'll see the bong rip.
/Willows, you can see the hong rip. I took twice the recommended dose of so my I don't sleep well at night.
True.
And my roommate bought me a CBN drink.
Okay.
So it's a cannabis drink.
Yeah.
Much like...
Which is legal here.
Which is obviously...
Yeah. Fuck you, America.
Which is much like CBD.
Yeah.
So it's not psychoactive, but it's like therapeutic or whatever. But CBN is like...
Sleepy time.
No, but CBN I think is psychoactive a little bit.
Okay.
So it's basically like the health benefits of CBD crossed with like THC.
Yeah.
So he bought me a thing of it, a vial of it. And I did twice the recommended dose. And I still woke up in the middle of the night. And I snapped him at like 4 a.m. I'm like, nah, I'm still awake. It was like recommended like 0.6 of a gram. And I took like 1 gram.
Yeah.
Or 1 milliliter or whatever it was. So I think I still have the whole vial. I think I'm going to take like 10 times the recommended dose and see if it knocks me out.
Nice.
But I just haven't had a day since then that I can't wake up in the morning.
Right.
Because like I've said this all the time. Like I've considered.
You just power through that alarm.
Well, I've considered like taking like lorazepam or like something drastic.
Yeah.
But I'm worried because I often have to work. Right. So I'm worried about like sleeping through, or like if I force myself to wake up in the morning, am I going to be fucked?
Right.
For like driving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so.
Like you can't operate heavy equipment for 24 hours.
Like, how do I get to work in the morning? Right.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm scared of. Not because I don't want to do enough drugs to put me in a fucking stupor, but like when I do enough alcohol to knock me the fuck out. Like when I take 30 shots on a weekend and knock me the fuck out, I know that I can wake up after 3 hours and go to work.
Right.
And be fine. It'll suck.
Yeah.
But I know I can do it. But the thing with like, I don't know if I can take a benzodiazepine and then go to work. Right? Which is why I haven't done it. Because God forbid I fucking kill somebody in a car because I'm on a fucking benzo. You know what I mean? Like,
God forbid.
God does forbid this.
Rip JP. Jordan Peterson.
Huh?
The Benzo King. But anyways, wrap up my thought.
Wrap up my cock, more like it.
Rip.
Once you start talking for so long, I don't get interested anymore, and I start trolling.
I'm so sorry. The only thing that gets you fired from Fox apparently is just being an HR liability. So, number one, don't believe what the initial press release says. Number two, he was probably a piece of shit and got fired because he was a liability to the company as an employee.
He's also like Harvard educated.
Yeah, that's the thing that like I you cannot understate. This guy was paid hundreds of millions of dollars as a Ivy League educated,
people forget,
multimillionaire, as a puppet figurehead for a billionaire.
I think liberals really discount how smart some of these people are.
Yeah.
Like how smart some of these grifters are. It's like, oh, Trump's such an idiot. It's like, is he though?
There's interviews with Tucker with stuff that's off of his show, or it's kind of more off the cuff, a little bit more genuine, like off script. And you can tell that this guy fully understands like Great Replacement Theory. He fully understands white supremacy. He fully understands all these things. And yet, willingly, consciously creates these statements that create fear, that create anger, that create all these things. He's doing this on purpose. Like, none of this is by accident. All this is on purpose. All this is intentional. And you can fully put this shit on his shoulders. And the most important part is that none of that matters to Fox. The only thing that gets you fired is you become an HR liability. Like, HR... Like,
which I'm kind of on board with that.
Like, white
Say ridiculous things, but don't rape people. That's been my mantra since day one.
Thanks, Bill O'Reilly. Rip. Yeah, so he crossed the line. So that's it. He just... Like, from the capitalist perspective, he just crossed the line because, like I said earlier, the guy made about $78 million a year for Fox.
Hey, from a capitalist perspective, if he caused more headaches than he made money for the company, they're well within their right to fire them.
Literally, he crossed that line. He made $78 million a year from Fox, and they got sued for like $800-some million, which basically wiped out the last 10 years that he existed, and also he was a pain in the ass. They're like, so you know what? You don't make us money, you cost us money, you're a pain in the ass, fuck you, go away. That was it. It's uncomplicated. That's the entire formula.
And that's basically what every audience member is saying to us through the screen right now. So we will go away. Until next time, kids. This has been episode 112 of Alcohol Beyond This Point. Find us Alcohol Beyond This Point on Instagram, Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast on Facebook. Tyler is the man over there.
Yeah, that's all you needed to know.
Willows is they over here. Is it offensive to identify as a not...
It's non-binary when
non-binary
you're not?
When I'm not non-binary? Is that like appropriation?
I mean, kind of the definition of gender neutral means neutrality should not be a position, so I'd say no. You're fine. Neutrality is not a stance, therefore, you're fine.
On that note, we're changing the name of the podcast to Alcohol Beyond the Point.
Beyond them.
Beyond
Alcohol Beyond them.
And stay tuned for next episode where we have Tucker Carlson as a guest.
Woo! God, I would love to have Tucker Carlson on our show.
Send him a DM.
Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.